This episode of the CyberWire is made possible in part by CyberReason. They're coming for it. Your personal data, your intellectual property, your business. Cyber attackers are working to take what belongs to you and holding you to ransom. Defenders don't fear ransomware, they end it. With CyberReason, defenders detect and stop ransomware that even others miss, every time. A promise backed by a $1 million breach warranty. At CyberReason, they don't fear ransomware, they end it. Learn more at cyberreason.com/ransom. A malware campaign offers bogus protection against Pegasus surveillance. A new APT, ChamelGang, is found active against targets in at least 10 countries. A ransomware gang can't get its decryptor right. A proof of concept shows that charges can be made from a non-contact Visa card in an iPhone wallet. David Dufour from Webroot warns of potential perils in cyber insurance. Our guest is Shamla Naidoo from Netskope with advice for cyber innovators. And ransomware may be responsible for a child's death in an Alabama hospital. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Friday, October 1st, 2021. Concerns about NSO Group's Pegasus spyware intercept tool have prompted a foreseeable response by threat actors. Pose as a Pegasus detection and removal tool. Cisco's Talos Group has found that the bad actors are posing as Amnesty International and phishing for concerned, well-informed but gullible users who are worried that they might be compromised with Pegasus. Downloading the proffered tool, however, actually installs Sarwent malware, which Talos describes as a little-known malicious kit that serves as a remote access tool. Unlike more commonplace information stealers, however, Sarwent doesn't simply grab and exfiltrate data, but rather establishes persistence that enables it to upload other varieties of malware, as well as pulling users' data at will. The campaigns observed are well executed. The bogus amnesty sites and emails have a convincing look and amount to a persuasive imitation of the genuine article, and the Sarwent malware itself seems to have the general look and feel of an antivirus tool. Talos summarizes, quote, "The campaign targets people who might be concerned that they are targeted by the Pegasus spyware. This targeting raises issues of possible state involvement, but there is insufficient information available to Talos to make any determination on which state or nation. It is possible that this is simply a financially motivated actor looking to leverage headlines to gain new access." End quote. So, for now, there's no clear attribution, but be wary of offers to immunize you against Pegasus. Positive Technologies has identified a new threat actor, ChamelGang, an APT targeting the fuel, energy, and aviation sectors. Quote, "In addition to 2 organizations in Russia, fuel and energy and aviation production companies, during further threat intelligence of the group activity, we identified 13 more compromised organizations in 10 countries of the world: the United States, Japan, Turkey, Taiwan, Vietnam, India, Afghanistan, Lithuania, and Nepal. In particular, compromised government sectors were found in the last 4. Microsoft Exchange Server was located on almost all compromised nodes. In all likelihood, the nodes were compromised using vulnerabilities such as proxy logon and proxy shell. All the victims were notified by the national certs." End quote. Comparable organizations in the UK are also believed to be vulnerable. The APT operates by exploiting proxy shell vulnerabilities in attacks to affect Microsoft Exchange. The attack also exploited trusted relationships. Positive Technologies explains, quote, "A trusted relationship attack is an attack in which criminals hack the infrastructure of a third-party company whose employees have legitimate access to the victim's resources. For example, subsidiaries may become the first link in the chain of attacks on the parent organization. In other cases, the attack may begin with hacking the company providing technical support. Such attacks are associated with the compromise of trusted channels, VPN for example. However, they are often confused with supply chain attacks, which are carried out using software and hardware means. An implant is embedded in the tool itself or in one part of the update to provide direct access to the server or establish a connection with the C2." End quote. The researchers have not yet attributed ChamelGang to any particular nation-state, but an APT it definitely seems to be. Presumably, the intelligence services of the victims can be ruled out. RansomX, and that's EXX, a relatively new entrant into the ransomware-as-a-service criminal-to-criminal market, apparently has some quality control issues. Their decryptor, Proforo reports, doesn't work reliably. It leaves many encrypted files damaged beyond immediate recovery. Many such files can be recovered with additional work, but the criminal's decryptor won't help the victims. SecureWorks has reported a brute force vulnerability in Azure Active Directory. Microsoft, after some initial resistance to accepting that the researchers' findings and proof of concept represented an actual security flaw, now intends to issue a mitigation for the vulnerability, GovInfo Security writes. Ars Technica summarizes the issue between SecureWorks and Microsoft, and a routine disclosure, Microsoft is a CyberWire sponsor. Microsoft thinks there are already precautions in place to keep users from succumbing to the sort of brute forcing SecureWorks describes, but Redmond appears to be working on some changes nonetheless. Researchers from the universities of Birmingham and Surrey have demonstrated, the BBC reports, a contactless hack of a locked iPhone that enabled them to extract a Visa payment of £1,000 from Visa cards set up in the iPhone's Wallet Express Transit mode. Apple sees it as a Visa issue, not an iPhone issue, so apparently people disagree. Do remember that the hack, clever as it may have been, was a researcher's proof of concept and not an issue encountered in the wild. And finally, a lawsuit alleges that an Alabama hospital that delivered a baby while systems were degraded by a ransomware attack missed a condition that ultimately resulted in the baby's death, the Wall Street Journal reports. The Spring Hill Medical Center in the U.S. state of Alabama was the facility affected. The ransomware had rendered a number of the clinical information systems doctors and nurses normally relied upon unavailable. The hospital had reverted to backup systems, and the plaintiffs allege that the unavailability of the additional layers of scrutiny and clear presentation that would normally have been used amounted to an unacceptable risk. The medical center denies wrongdoing, and whoever was or wasn't at fault, the child's death was a tragedy. This is the second case in which ransomware has been directly implicated in a death. The first, as the Washington Post reminds us, was a case in Cologne, Germany, where a ransomware attack a year ago in September of 2020 forced an ambulance to divert an emergency case to a more distant hospital. The patient died en route, but might well have survived had the affected emergency room not been too disrupted by ransomware to handle cases. Both cases should be borne in mind when reading the tiresome claims of restraint and discriminating targeting that the ransomware gangs are wont to make, and of course our condolences to the families of both victims. And now, a word from our sponsor, Dufour. There's a reason more than half of today's ransomware victims end up paying the ransom. Cybercriminals have become thoughtful, taking time to maximize your organization's potential damage and their payoffs. After achieving root access, the bad guys explore your network, reading email, finding data troves, and once they know you, they craft a plan to cause the most panic, pain, and operational disruption. Ransomware has gone nuclear. The folks at Dufour have an upcoming webinar that'll get you up to speed on ransomware. In this webinar, you'll find out why data backups, even offline backups, won't save you, why ransomware isn't your real problem, and how your end users can become your best last line of defense. Go to knowbefore.com/ransom to learn more about the webinar. That's knowbe4.com/ransom. And we thank KnowBefore for sponsoring our show. Shamla Naidoo is head of cloud strategy and innovation at Netskope and judge of the upcoming Data Tribe Challenge, which ends its submission phase tonight. A unique annual competition that brings together the best entrepreneurs in the world looking to disrupt cybersecurity and data science. Data Tribe selects 3 finalists that split $20,000 in prize money and one winner that could receive up to $2 million in seed capital. Full disclosure, Data Tribe is a CyberWire investor. I checked in with Shamla Naidoo for her advice to innovative startups looking to gather attention.
I would say that, there's a lot of innovation out there. We are not short on innovation, and the innovation is very readily available to all. Sometimes free, sometimes low cost, sometimes high cost, but it is available. And what I would say is, we have to look at how businesses are consuming the innovation that exists and what are the risks that are being created in this new environment. Those are the problems we need to be solving. So, if I had to pick a couple, I would say the cloud is forming the backbone of our telecommunications and our communications environments. And not because the cloud is just an innovation that we should consume. What we really want is to speed up our businesses. We don't want to spend our precious resources and talent building out infrastructure and, capability that we could commoditize and buy from someone else. So the idea is we want to preserve our resources to do things that are special and unique to our business. Everything that's commoditized, we can outsource, we can delegate, we can buy it, we can lease it, we can borrow it from others. And so I think the cloud forms that backbone where others are writing applications, others are creating all of the solutions. We just want to go consume those and add our unique perspective. So for me, I'd say to an entrepreneur is make sure that anything you create follows the cloud, because almost every business is out there either already on a cloud journey or they are on a cloud journey and they don't even know it. And so, we have many, many organizations where cloud is being consumed, cloud services, cloud applications are being consumed. They may not even know it. So we need that visibility. So make sure that your solutions support businesses where they have cloud workloads. Make sure that the cloud workloads give the consumer visibility and gives you a place to control that may be outside of your immediate area of either ownership or control. And then, remember that we live in a data world. So I would say looking at cloud as a backbone, look at data and data protection, because almost every organization right now has become a data-driven decision-making organization. Everything we do generates data. Someone is collecting it. Someone is aggregating it, collating it, and making decisions about what we should be doing. And they're looking to influence our behavior and influence our actions. So, we know that businesses are driven by data. So data protection is the other really big key piece to remaining relevant to where businesses are going. And then on the other hand, I'll think about things like artificial intelligence. We've got so much data that none of us can humanly consume. Artificial intelligence actually helps us to do that, to again give us that benefit of speed and scale. So we can use and consume large amounts of data. We can create conclusions and action lists very, very quickly from our analysis. And so those are 2 areas I would really focus on is data protection and, artificial intelligence. How do you actually consume that data? How do you extract business insights from the data that you have collected? But then, on the security side is recognizing that we have to continue to secure and protect that cloud infrastructure that we don't own, that we don't control. So we're going to have to find unique and different ways to solve for that. So entrepreneurs out there should help us to do that. And then, lastly, I would say, just recognizing that because speed is so important, removing the friction from how we work should be a key component in creating any solution. So making sure that, that you're creating smooth workflows that are going to give you an outcome versus, too many handoffs and too many steps and creating either inconvenience or creating obstacles for the end user. So all of us wants to create a very productive workforce. We're all looking to extract as much value as we can from the precious talent and resources that we have. Removing the friction helps us to make better business decisions and make better business outcomes.
That's Shamla Naidoo. She's head of cloud strategy and innovation at Netskope and judge of the upcoming Data Tribe Challenge. Entrepreneurs and founders, it's not too late to get your application in. It's quick and easy. Go to datatribe.com/challenge. There's a lot more to this conversation. If you want to hear more, head on over to CyberWire Pro and sign up for Interview Selects, where you get access to this and many more extended interviews. And now, a word from our sponsor, Ningio. Are you still measuring the success of your cybersecurity awareness training program by the number of people who take simulated fish bait? That was yesterday's thinking. Reactive metrics don't provide an accurate indication of a true cybersecurity-aware culture. Instead, it's about proactive metrics that offer deep insight into how your employees are thinking about cybersecurity, what encourages them to report suspicious activity, and how often they are thwarting attacks. That's where Ningio comes in. Through animated micro-learning episodes featuring celebrity actors, Ningio empowers individuals and organizations to obtain the proactive skills, habits, and behaviors to truly become defenders against cyber threats. Let Ningio show you how to create proactive cybersecurity-aware cultures from the inside out. New Ningio episodes release every month. So head over to ningio.com, that's Ninjio.com, to learn more and watch their latest episode for free. And we thank Ningio for sponsoring our show. And joining me once again is David Dufour. He's the Vice President of Engineering and Cybersecurity at Webroot. David, always great to have you back. I know that you have had your eye lately on cyber insurance and some of the good and bad that comes with that. What can you share with us today?
Yes. Hey, David. Always good to be back. Love the show. Love being on it. You and I have been talking about cyber insurance off and on for a couple of years now, probably more like 5. And it's really starting to become a well-defined product that insurance agencies are figuring out how to sell. Obviously, their goal is to make money while protecting you. So as we've seen the growth of cybersecurity as an industry, the insurance companies have done a pretty good job of figuring out how to offer the services to folks.
You know, one of the things I've noticed is obviously, the prices are heading up as it seems as more ransomware cases are coming up. So it seems like the cyber insurance companies are doing a better job of calibrating their own risk.
Yeah, and that's the key thing to consider with any type of cyber insurance. Initially it was the Wild West. You would get a policy. The insurance underwriters wouldn't exactly know how much to charge or how much to insure for, because originally a lot of the insurance covered things like brand protection or physical downtime because you couldn't sell because your website was down. But what's happening is with the growth of ransomware and the ability of organizations to be attacked in that manner, they've really done a good job of applying like NIST standards, making sure that you're following proper cyber hygiene, and then offering insurance around that. The trick there being is if you're not following what you signed up for in the policy, they're not going to pay out. So again, they've gotten really good at the underwriting and then identifying what you need to do to stay compliant.
What are you telling the folks that you're working with in terms of, shopping around and finding the best fit for them?
Yes. Well, so the good news, as it becomes more of a something that can be well defined, we're seeing not fringe insurance providers. So you're able to go to your really strong insurance companies and get coverage. But what you've got to do is decide what you're trying to insure against. A lot of folks, there still is a brand awareness that's important. So you've got to be aware of that. And then, are you trying to insure against ransomware? If you're hacked or attacked in some way that involves a ransom, do you want to make sure you have that coverage? And, maybe that's more important to you because, we always like to talk about the welder in Oklahoma who just wants to send out invoices. If you have cyber insurance, you're not really caring about paying for brand cleanup or brand protection. You're more concerned about having the coverage for a ransomware to get you back on your feet. So basically, you need to know what you're getting. And then the bigger part is know what you're paying for, but what you've got to do to stay compliant in terms of the policy itself.
Yeah, I can't help wondering if as things go forward and we see more and more payouts, if cyber insurance may go the way of flood insurance, where it's really hard for private companies to underwrite these sorts of things, and we end up with some sort of government backstop.
That, and with the way crypto's going and the government involvement there, we may end up with some type of government backstop. And what's interesting, David, and there's news articles about this. We're seeing it, so I by no means have the market cornered on this. But the industry is seeing where nefarious actors are going into an environment, into somebody's systems, looking for insurance coverage, figuring out what their policy is, and then setting the ransom to what the policy is. So, yeah. There's at some point going to be some rule and a policy that says you can't keep your policy on your network. But we've seen that happen in many cases here recently.
Yeah, I can imagine companies having, placing decoy policies in their honeypots, right?
Exactly, for low amounts. That's
right.
Exactly right.
Right, exactly. All right. Interesting stuff as always. David Dufour, thanks for joining us.
Hey, great being here, David.
Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the CyberWire possible. And speaking of sponsors, stay tuned for a message from our sponsor, Arctic Wolf. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. Wondering what to do with all that free time this weekend? Well, check out Research Saturday and my conversation with Dan Petro and Alan Cecil from Bishop Fox on their research, You're Doing IoT RNG. That's Research Saturday. Do check it out. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing CyberWire team is Elliot Peltzman, Trey Hester, Brandon Karp, Peru Prakash, Justin Sabi, Tim Nodar, Joe Carrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yellen, Nick Valecki, Gina Johnson, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Rick Howard, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here next week. And now, a message from our sponsor, Arctic Wolf. When it comes to mitigating the impact of a security incident, minutes matter. So the question is, how long would it take your organization to detect a ransomware attack? The answer could be the difference between business as usual and devastating consequences to your customers' bottom line and reputation. Learn how the Arctic Wolf platform and concierge security team can help your organization detect the undetectable, not in days or hours, but minutes. For for the first time, take an exclusive look at how their experts investigated, escalated, and remediated a real-life ransomware attack on a local government organization. Visit arcticwolf.com/cyberwire to check out on-demand webinars, an interactive timeline, and find resources to help you learn how to continually improve your security posture over time. With Arctic Wolf, stop breaches before they disrupt business. Explore real-world examples at arcticwolf.com/cyberwire. And we thank Arctic Wolf for sponsoring our show.